debate. So the Senate voted 68 to 31 to overcome a Republican-led filibuster and will begin the most significant debate on new gun legislation in this country in nearly 2 decades. The vote comes a day after a bipartisan deal to expand background checks on purchases at gun shows and on the internet. It does, though, exclude personal transfers of guns. Now, the NRA has rejected the proposal, saying it would unfairly infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding gun owners. Well, out front tonight, Ted Nugent, the legendary rocker, has more than 200 guns and is one of the NRA's most vocal supporters. And Ted, I really appreciate having you come on. There's a lot of things I wanted to talk to you about, but I want to start with the background checks in that bill in Washington. It includes gun shows. It includes people buying guns online, but it doesn't have a background check if you buy a gun from a friend or a family member. Do you support the bill?
I do not, and thank you for speaking so clearly, Aaron, because I value every word you say out here in the wilderness. No, I don't support the bill. I agree with the 90+% of the law enforcement heroes out there, the real warriors on the street, that reject this as a feel-good measure. Right now, it's only a single percentile that are rejected with the current background check, so it's a problem that just doesn't exist, and we don't need to fix something that doesn't need fixing. So I reject it out of hand as a feel-good measure that's not going to accomplish anything. It won't stop any shootings, that's for sure.
So you're saying if we enforce the background checks we have better now, you would stop more people from buying guns, and that would be the way to go instead of passing broader background checks?
Aaron, I like the sound of that. You've been doing your homework. Yeah, absolutely. It's unanimous in law enforcement, in the court systems out there. Even Chicago, the murder capital, that's a gun-free zone with the strictest gun control laws in America, they don't prosecute those that are stopped from buying guns. And of the 76,000 that were denied because of clerical errors or a positive negative that were finally okayed, only 44 of those 76,000 turned out to be someone who were properly denied firearms, and they weren't prosecuted. So we need to enforce the laws. This has been we the people, the families that are members of the National Rifle Association. This has been our mantra all along. We know who these recidivistic monsters are. We know who the felons are that the court system has let out onto our streets. Why are we going after all these people that are causing no problems, like me and like the NRA members and all the hundreds of millions of American gun owners, and why are we ignoring the felons?
Well, another thing, though, that this doesn't capture is the issue of people with mental health. And I want to ask you about that because, you know, here in New York State, they're trying to deal with it, Ted, as you're probably aware. There's been gun laws passed this year that other states may copy, and it allows the state to confiscate a weapon from people under the following circumstances. 1, if you're suffering from mental illness. 2, if you've been convicted of a violent felony offense, which is what you just referred to. And 3, if the court has issued an order of protection against you. So if you're a husband threatening your wife or your children. But I wanted to focus in on this because are any of those cases in which you wouldn't support the government taking away someone's gun? I mean, after all, James Holmes and Adam Lanza were both mentally ill in some way.
Sure. No, those categories, as you stated them, would be universally supported by people who want to keep guns out of dangerous people's hands. Unfortunately, the bureaucracy out there that would put Ted Kennedy on the no-fly list over and over and over again, which I happen to support, but that was a mistake. He shouldn't have been on the no-fly list. The bureaucracy won't accurately or responsibly or legally identify someone with mental issues. And you know how easy it is for feuding lovers or feuding friends or feuding neighbors to issue a protection order against someone falsely. So I don't trust the court system, and I sure don't trust the bureaucracies to ascertain who's dangerous and who's not. They have actually categorized the heroes of the military, Aaron, warriors returning home, putting their lives on the line. They've generalized and categorized some of these heroes with no evidence as being mentally unstable who can't have a Second Amendment, that they fought and died to protect. So you see this incredibly dangerous slippery slope when you give that kind of control to bureaucrats that have blown that kind of control over and over again?
Well, what they're also trying to do, though, is rely on doctors. And you look at James Holmes, who killed those people in the Colorado movie theater, right? I mean, his psychiatrist had tried to reach out to law enforcement. If there had been a background check and that had shown up, he might not have been able to get a gun. That would have saved lives.
Well, yeah, I would trust you and me to make that decision, because in every instance of Virginia Tech, Columbine, Tucson, Aurora, certainly Sandy Hook, everybody, family members, schoolmates, co-workers, neighbors, people who encountered every one of these maniacs had alerted people in the past over and over again, but nobody did anything. So that's the kind of evidence that we should act upon, but not just a random accusation. We got to be careful when it's documented.
But that
and
was
they
a
actually
doctor.
have
That was a doctor, which is what the state law would do. Would rely on doctors.
Sure. Multiple evidence like that I would support. I think everybody would support that. Every one of those nut jobs should have been in a cage a long time before they committed their heinous acts.
So do you think that the government, if there is documentation of background checks, and I know you don't necessarily agree with expanding them, I get that, but there's a background check, there's documentation of that background check. This bill says that that would not create a national registry of guns. Do you agree?
Again, the concept is sound, but I just don't trust the government. I don't trust a government that claims it's going to reduce the budget while they increase the budget, a government that sends F-16s. And here's one for you, Aaron. I think we can both agree that we need to stop gun trafficking. Do you agree with that?
Stop gun trafficking? Yes.
Illegal gun trafficking.
Yes.
Then you would support my recommendation that we arrest Eric Holder.
Well, no, I don't support that.
Well,
I have to admit, I don't support that.
Trafficking. Well, I do.
All right. Well, that's
how you stop
your
gun
right as an
trafficking,
American
by
to have
stopping
that
gun
belief.
trafficking.
I mean, that's your right as an American to have that
want to
belief.
stop. Well, if you want to stop gun trafficking, why don't we go after the guy that's trafficking guns? That would be Eric Holder.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there, Ted. I would love to continue. They've been trying to have me wrap for a couple of minutes, but I hope that you'll come back on. We can continue that conversation and talk more about this. Thanks again, sir.
I will. I love you madly.
All right. Thank you.